golf coaches, especially working with elite players, I can really see the day, whether it's in the near future or in the distant future, where they go, listen, you ruined my career. You changed my swing. I got worse and was never able to get to where I was or where I thought I could be. And there might be some repercussions for that.
Folks, you never know what you're going to find on this channel. That's why it's YouTube's hottest golf channel. In today's episode, I've got an Australian on who's a golf pro who lives in Indonesia. Let's get into this episode with Adam Taylor. Adam Taylor, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Pants, and thank you so much for inviting me on here. I've never done any podcast before, so whether it's just talking or videos. So this is a new experience for me. So this is going to be good fun.
You and I owe it to the female golf community to put our faces out there.
I couldn't agree more, Pans. I think you were two very aesthetically pleasing looking guys. So yeah, why would we want to deprive the female audience? I'm originally, obviously from Australia. You can probably tell from my accent. Born in Sydney, but grew up in Melbourne, Australia. So where there's lots of famous golf courses like, Royal Melbourne and places like that, where they've played the President's Cup a couple of times. And a big sporting town. So we have everything from, Australian football, and that, which you might have to Google for a lot of you to see what that's like. But very big golf place. So we have, I think, maybe I could be wrong. Someone could fact check me. I think there's 150 or 200 golf courses in the greater Melbourne area. So anything from public golf courses all the way to your super exclusive private golf clubs. And with our weather, we can play all year round, even though it gets a bit cool in the wintertime. And probably like most young Australian kids at the time, we got into golf probably through our dad. And probably in my generation was probably the biggest thing was Greg Norman. I mean, he was our sort of hero in golf. So, he was the number one player in the world. So this was like, mid-late 80s and early 90s. So he was our sort of, I guess to the later generation, like a Tiger Woods. But he was, he just was an amazing guy. So a lot of people probably have slightly different opinions about Greg Norman now, I think. But
this channel is Team Shark. All right. It is Team Greg Norman.
Still, as a young guy growing up, I mean, he was just someone we looked up to.
It's hard enough teaching an Australian using your own language all the golf skills they need to know. Now you're living in Indonesia. You got that language barrier. You're working with kids. How do you translate your knowledge so that they can understand it, given the culture and language barrier?
Yeah, Pants. Well, probably luckily for me is that pretty much anyone who plays golf here, especially from Indonesia, will speak pretty much fluent English. And either most people, like the adults, will have they've gone to international schools or they've studied overseas, like they've gone to college in America, they've gone to university in Australia or probably Europe. And they speak English fluently. So obviously they have to be able to do that to get into the university and college courses. So, and then for the kids, because golf is a very elite sport here, so it is very expensive to play. You need some cash. So a lot of the kids that I coach will go to some sort of form of private school or some international school. So they all speak English fluently. Even a lot of I wouldn't say a lot, but quite a few of the Indonesian kids, actually, their English is way better than their Indonesian. So even sometimes I might say something in the Indonesian language and they go, what? What did you say? So I'm going, yeah, aren't you Indonesian? You should know this. The language barrier has never been as great as it might be in many other countries. So like I went to China and that was, probably I needed a translator.
I know in your area, there are multiple golf pros, golf schools. I even believe there's some type of David Leadbetter academies around.
Yeah, there's about, I'm just trying to think of the time, I think there's about 4. So they first came here, probably more than 10 years ago, I would say. Probably maybe 2010 or something like that. They opened one and I think they've got about 4. They did also have one down in Bali. I'm not sure if that's still going, but there is, the David Leadbetter branded academies here. So there's some golf coaches. Generally, I think there's, Australian guy. There's some from Europe, South Africa as well, who are coaching here as well. So, they've set up their academies. They've built the studios there at some more of the sort of prestigious golf clubs here in Jakarta.
Do you recall David Leadbetter's The A Swing?
I do. I remember he bought out the book probably maybe a little bit more than 10 years ago, I think, as well. So, I mean, one thing about David, he's been able to market his stuff very, very well. He even had the swing trainer, I think, even that's probably going back almost 20 years as well. In terms of that and the book, and I remember even the coach who I was working with at the time said, "Oh, the A swing's pretty much the stuff I think he's been, coaching for the last 20 or 30 years. He's just packaged it up, put a name together." And that's actually fantastic marketing as well. So he's always been very good at that. He must be or the team behind it, because he's got golf schools all around the world, and he's still very renowned around the world as a golf coach. So in terms of that, yeah, he's been able to market himself very well.
Should David Leadbetter be apologizing to the golf community? Because potentially the only person he ever really helped was Nick Faldo.
That is a great question, Pants. And I mean, as golf coaches, especially working with elite players, now I've done a little bit with elite players, even a couple of pros as well, is you really have to be careful about the advice that you're giving, because it's these players, male and female, it's their career, it's their dream to be a tour pro, or at least a really good amateur, or whatever it is. So and from what I've seen and just my observations a lot of careers have been ruined by a bit of a swing obsession, probably over the last 20 years or so. And it's probably not a lot that's talked about, but it is something that's definitely been happened to a lot of really good golfers, especially when they've been young. So they've been coming through in their late teens, early 20s. They've been touted as like world beaters, things like that. And then you sort of never hear of them again. And you read some of their stories about what they went through and how they tried to change their swing for whatever reason and things like that, where it has really ruined their careers. And I've even thought to myself, is it going to be is there going to be, and maybe there has, I'm not sure, is there going to be a case one day where an athlete, whether especially like golf, or we use that as an example, is going to sue their coach because they've ruined their career, ruined their dream? So is that going to happen somewhere in the future? So, you look at maybe David Leadbetter as an example. I mean, probably his most famous student still is going back as Nick Faldo. And Nick Faldo did change his swing. He changed it completely. He said he didn't think he could hold up under pressure in majors and things like that. So, that is probably still carried on a bit today, where I see elite golfers where, if they feel like they're not playing well, it must be because of the swing. And it's not always the case. And I can even use the example of some very successful coaches that I've worked under, where it's a lot of the time not the case. It can be, what are they thinking about? How are they practicing? How are they training their game? Are they just, beating balls with no intent? And I've seen even, pretty good pro golfers really not having any idea really how to practice, and, continually tinkering. And that was a word that I learned very quickly from a coach called Laurie Montague, who I worked under. And he's quite sort of well known in the golfing or the coaching community as a very smart guy who's really gone a little bit outside the swing obsession. And I'm not here to say that, you still need, really good impact positions and things like that, to be able to hit the ball well, control the club face. But a lot of the time, and even speaking to a guy like Laurie, who's been around elite golf for 40 years, and he's just telling me the amount of golfers, boys and girls who've had their careers ended by basically focusing so much on the swing that they get to a point where their brain just gets fried almost, and their careers are over. So, there is a lot for that, especially YouTube now has really continued on. There's so many, swing stuff out there. It's easy, and I can see as an amateur, how confusing it is. You get out there, someone says one thing and another thing, and it's all about, the scrolling. You're looking for something, you're tinkering, you're trying something. And I see this a lot. When I first meet a student, I always ask, what are you thinking about as you're standing over the ball? And a lot of the time they'll say, well, I'm trying to focus on my takeaway, my top of my backswing, hip movement, this thing. And the human brain just cannot do that. It just cannot function with all that stuff going on.
Do you have any kids now that you're instructing that have a Matthew Wolff or very non-conventional swing? And what do you do in that case?
Yeah, well, I think especially for younger kids, they're going to have some, what we might think are weird looking swings. Some are not really quite strong enough yet. I mean, in my junior academy, I coach any kids from like 5 years old up to about 18. And especially as they get into teenage years as well, they can become, they're growing faster than their muscles can catch up and things like that as well. So, in the end, every golfer is different. And I think most golf coaches will agree about that as well. And, what is sort of textbook might work for one student, even an adult, but might not work for another player. So, you were talking about before about, most great players of the club going outside. Well, you can think about John Rahm as well. He gets it a little bit inside. It's not a hard and fast rule. Obviously, if we see, a lot of amateurs and they're whipping it inside with the club face open a lot, well, yeah, they're probably going to struggle to hit the ball straight. So you can work a bit on their takeaways. So, in the end, it all comes down to, especially for elite golfers, and even this is something that I lost a bit when I was younger and trying to be a pro golfer or a tour pro, was the only thing that matters, the only number that really matters in the end is your score. So, if you're effing around with your swing all the time and you're losing the goal, all right, the goal should be, okay, how do I score better? So, maybe you might have to, is your swing, are you, from like most golfers, they hit the ball much better on the range in practice than what they do on the course. So why is that? So maybe you need to change the way you practice. Maybe you need to be able to really practice more on the things. Maybe you need to practice more on what you're thinking about under pressure. So one of the biggest things that I came across working with a coach like Laurie was he said a lot to me, just observe what golfers do. So just stand back and, get them to do a putting drill, or they're on the range, and maybe give them a task to do. So they have to hit 5 in a row in between a couple of targets, or they have to hold 10 putts in a row, and just watch their behavior from, when they first start to when they're trying to get that goal. So they're trying to hit that last shot through the, the targets, or they're trying to hold that 10th putt in a row, or whatever it be. And it's so often, like almost every time, the players would start to do things very differently from ball number 1 or 2 to ball number 9 or 10 or whatever it is. So you'd start to see them, take a lot more time, or sometimes fasten up. They would do 3 practice swings instead of 2 practice swings. They'd waggle, 3 times instead of 2 times. They might go from standing over the ball 10 seconds to 15 or 20 seconds as well. So that's one of the things I learned, that it's sometimes, especially when players are getting ready to go out in the golf course and they're not able to transfer their game, a lot of it comes back to, okay, they're displaying the same behavior, the same things that they're doing in their practice is just flowing through to when they go onto the golf course. So that was probably one of the biggest things I learned, is just sit back and watch people, how they react into different situations. So, we're never going to be able to replicate the exact type of pressure or whatever that is, whatever that word means for people when they're practicing, when they have to, they're out in a tournament, for example. But even a little bit of a change in what they're doing in their practice, you can really see the difference in what people do when there's no consequence involved to then having a consequence. So, sometimes, especially with the kids, I'll, have fun games where, and even adults as well, if they don't hit 3 shots in between those 2 targets, they have to do 10 push-ups or something like that. You've got to give people a consequence that you want to see what they do under that perceived pressure, to see, all right, so they're changing what they're doing in that environment under pressure, then no wonder they can't perform under pressure when they're going to play in a tournament or around with their friends or when lots of people are watching or something like that. So, golf is so much more than just, okay, this perfect swing position. And that's probably something that, and I want to preface this saying, I've done all these mistakes. So don't worry. I don't want anyone out there to say, oh, you're perfect. You don't do this. I've made all these mistakes. And I've just been lucky that I'll probably come across 1 or 2 coaches that have probably just pushed me and go, yep, the swing, you obviously need a very, solid swing, but there's so much more to being, and this is probably more again to the elite side of golf, where there's so much more that goes into being a great player than just the swing.
In terms of not just the swing, let's talk about the short game. Are you a use the bounce type short game coach, or are you more of the use the leading edge?
Well, I guess a lot of it comes back to, again, what is going to get the best result for the student. And if someone's, chunking it a lot and they're digging in a lot, so you might go, okay, well, imagine, I saw a really good drill a few months ago where, there was a very small coin, and your goal is to go through and just try and brush the coin or something like that. So, for me, I tend to work a little bit more on hopefully very simple things. So one of my big things, whether people are doing full swing or short game, and a lot of people have problems with their contact with their short game, is just try and brush the grass, for example. So for a lot of the time, you've got to take, and in my experience, just in my coaching, because I can only speak for myself, is if you can get people thinking less about the golf ball and more about what the club is doing and external things, they seem to get much better results. So instead, for me, if I see someone really, they might be chunking or topping their chipping shots, for example, instead of going, all right, well, we need to do this with your technique or get your hands in front or whatever, let's just try and brush the grass. See, all right, let's see if we can copy and paste that with the ball. And it can be amazing how quickly people, because their focus has shifted from whether they might be thinking about their technique or they're thinking about, all right, I have to hit the ball, to removing the ball, just doing something very simple as touching the grass. It's amazing from what I've seen how people can get so much better at a very simple thing like that and get great results, get better contact, get the ball getting closer to the hole, even with their iron play as well. So in my experience, the biggest problem people have, and probably the most frustrating thing for pretty much every amateur golfer, is contact. They chunk it, they top it, they might get a 1 or 2 out of 10 that feels good. So for me, if I can just get them imagining, all right, just try and touch the grass, and imagine you're just touching the grass under the ball. So if you can sort of start to do that in your practice swing, and we can get you copying and pasting that to the ball, then it's amazing how quickly they can start to make better contact within a few shots. So they're thinking less about the ball. Their technique will actually change a little bit because their mind goes, well, actually, I have to hit the grass a little bit under the ball or a little bit in front, where they've been hitting it miles behind or they haven't hitting the ball at all. And their technique automatically gets a little bit better. Their hands automatically get a little bit more in front. They get their weight shift a little bit more to the left. So that's probably been where I was always probably, all right, it's really, you have to do these feels and things like that. Feel that I found is different for everybody. So if I say, oh, you have to feel it in, and I did this, oh, you have to feel it in your left leg or your left foot or your left arm. But for some people, they might not have that feel. It might be in their right leg. It could be in their right arm or whatever it might be. So I've probably adjusted my coaching, whereas if we can focus on some external things, then that can be, and I've seen much faster change happening for that for my students, just in my experience there, Vance.
So when most golfers get up to their first tee shot or in the middle of the fairway or the putting green, they're thinking all the things they don't want to happen. Don't slice it, don't top it, don't ground it, don't three putt. And that's exactly what our brain is going to remember, all those things that we don't want. So next time you're stepping up to the first tee or you're on the fairway, you're on the green, only think about what you do want and you're going to get it much more often.
But a lot of the time you've got to get into their mind first and then work sort of backwards through their technique a lot, because a lot of what people are thinking, in my experience, influences their technique rather than the other way around.
I've got a tweet for you. I like it because it's, again, it kind of gets you externalizing instead of focusing on the internal. It says, can't control those self-destructive thoughts? Do this. Press the tip of your tongue against the back of your upper or lower teeth. Our tongue makes tiny waves when we think. So if we keep it still, our thoughts disappear. This is from you.
Yeah, I didn't come up with this. I actually read this in a book called Red Golf, Blue Golf. I think that was the memory. And it was from I think a psychiatrist or something like that, or a physiologist or something like that. And they said that, when we think consciously, the tongue actually has very minute wavers in it. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I've never actually heard any other coaches talk about it. Maybe they haven't. I just happened to come across this book that was recommended to me. And it was really more on the mental side of golf. And I recommend anybody to, if they get a copy, I think you can get it on Amazon pretty easily, to read it. But this is really one thing that I found out, that, our conscious mind really gets in the way a lot. So, one thing I've found, and I'll get back to that, is and I've always asked people, when they're doing their practice swings, what are they thinking about? And most of the time they'll go, oh, nothing really, maybe just one thing. And then they get over the ball and it completely changes. So what are you thinking about now? And I'll list out, all right, they list 5 different things. So I've tried to get people to do the opposite. So, all right, think a little bit more of what you want to do in your practice swing. But then when you get over the ball, maybe just think of one thing. Or if you can't stop a lot of those thoughts coming into your head, use your tongue and press it against the back of your teeth, whether it's your bottom teeth or your upper teeth, it really doesn't matter. And I did this, and I was a bit skeptical when I first read this. I thought, oh, that doesn't seem right. But I did it myself, and when I do it, it is very hard to think of something longer than a second or two. Whenever I feel maybe a little bit of stuff coming into mind, I just press my tongue against the back of my teeth, and it's amazing how it just sort of lets my mind free up, and I'm able to perform the shot much better.
One of the benefits of being in the States is that I can always ring up some golf club I want to try out on eBay or some other offer up, etc. You don't really have that option. I know in Australia, when I was there, golf clubs were much more expensive, smaller market. Thailand, same thing. What about the clubs selection in Indonesia?
Yeah, well, we have all the major brands here. It is nothing like, even for Australia, I was just back there. I want to get to the States one day and go to one of those like superstores or something like that. It would be amazing. So, golf clubs here, there is a lot of government tax on them. So anything that's considered luxury items in Indonesia, there's quite a lot of tax. There is a local version, a little bit of eBay. So you can get sort of secondhand clubs and things like that. There's a lot of advertised new clubs, but you always have to be wary whether they're actual real clubs. And I actually did one once, about a couple of years ago. I ordered a new TaylorMade wedge, and it was a little bit cheaper than the price in the golf store, but I got it and you could just tell it was fake. So I just sent it back straight away. Luckily, you can get your money back. But, for most people here that, as I said, that play, you need some cash, you need some money. It's very expensive to play. So, to play, it's a lot of golf courses, there is a bit of a membership, but you still actually have to pay each time you play, whether it's like $20 or $30. So it's a little bit of a different membership model than what we're probably used to in the States or Europe or Australia. But most 99% of people are just paying their green fee. And, you're looking at anywhere, usually the golf courses here, it's cheaper on a Monday. So it might be $70 US, and then all the way up on a Saturday morning, you're probably looking at anywhere, most golf courses, anywhere from 150 US to over 200 US, maybe 250 US to play. The golf courses are packed. There's probably only about, in the greater Jakarta area, probably 60 golf courses, but most of them, you look, they're all very nicely, architect design. They're all beautiful golf courses, so they've got to try and get their money back somehow, but they are always packed. So people are really paying a premium here to be able to play golf. But probably one thing I've really noticed, playing golf here and then going back to Australia is everybody dresses beautifully. Like they all have the latest, golf clothes. They have, all the Adidas stuff. Jay Lindbergh's pretty popular here. Nike stuff as well. So, everybody steps out looking like a tour pro when they go to play here. So you'll very rarely see anybody, just dressing in some random shorts or shirt or anything like that. Everybody, and it's probably a bit of an Asian thing as well. They really want to portray that, even though they might not be able to play very well, but they want to portray that that they're out there and they can play golf. They can afford to play golf. So it's a very big status thing here as well. Their pants.
How are the courses packed throughout the day when it's so hot during the middle of the day?
Yeah, well, there is probably a little bit of, at the moment we're in the middle of wet season, so that sort of ranges from sort of November through to about March and April. So it's not quite as humid, it's still warm, but, we really don't have much other option. It's pretty much warm from from 5:30, so the morning you get up. So, early tee times are pretty popular, so the courses can be really busy even on a Monday morning at, 5:30 in the morning when the sun comes up. There probably is during the weekdays a little bit of a lull for a couple of hours, but then players are back out there, 1 o'clock again, and I guess you just sort of get used to the heat and the humidity, and people, golfers will play in any weather. I see this time of year, so many guys, whether in Europe or America, they're out there trying to practice and they've got their hoodie, their beanies on, they're wrapped up. and golfers will play in any weather. So you just sort of get used to it. And yeah, there's not much option. It's pretty warm most of the time. You don't have to worry about your wardrobe much, Pants. So you never have to worry about, is it going to be cold today, or is it going to be a bit of a wind? It's basically, I mean, a lot of the guys and the girls will still wear pants a lot. Sleeve sort of stretchy sleeve things over the arms are pretty popular because they don't want to get too dark. I mean, Korean ladies are wrapped up. They don't want to show any skin. They don't want to get any sunburn or anything like that as well. So, but people are playing all during the day. So at the moment, yeah, it's a little bit cooler being wet season during the middle of the day. So we do get our sort of rain, tropical storms at different times of the day, but with a bit of lightning. But people will play pretty much all the time.
What's in your bag right now and why?
Yeah, so I've got a bit of a mixture. I've got some Mizuno irons, so MP59s, and I've probably had them for about 10 years, but I just love them. So I have that from 4 to pitching wedge. Last year, I got some new Vokey wedges, the SM9s, and I did have some Mizuno wedges before that, but I always thought the bounce wasn't quite enough. Sometimes I'd dig into it a little bit, and so I've got some Vokey wedges. I've got 50 degree for like 100-meter, 100-yard shot. I've got 54 and a 60, and my chipping and pitching has never been better. Like, I love using these clubs. I never worry about, am I going to chunk it a little bit? Am I going to thin it? I'm using an Odyssey putter, which is a bit of an older one. It's an Odyssey tank. But I've used that for probably 6 or 7 years, and I love putting with that. It's got an extra thick grip on it. I've still got a Mizuno 3-wood and a Rescue, but I hardly ever use those anymore. So, and then about 2 years ago, I got a TaylorMade Sim 2. So, and I changed the shaft in about a year ago. I got a slightly stiffer one, but I love using that. So I've even tried the Stealth, and it didn't quite feel the same for me. So I've stuck with the SM2, the Sim 2 at the moment, their Pants, which I love. So I can stand up there and feel pretty confident that I can at least keep it in play most of the time.
Sounds like a solid set. I've gone back in time to the Ping G400 series. They're classics. I've actually got a couple of them.
That's probably been one of the biggest things for golf is now the driver went from being probably one of the most difficult clubs to use to being one of the easiest club to use. So I think that's certainly helped people get into golf and hopefully retain them as well. And especially during COVID, so many new golfers now, they're getting those drivers and they're probably thinking, wow, it's probably their most favored club and probably the one that's the easier to hit for them. There's no difference in accuracy between a player's driver and their 3-wood for pretty much all amateurs. So they're better off just using their driver all the time. At least they're going to get some more distance as well. Geez, who do I like watching? I mean, I still loved, and a fellow countryman, same name, Adam Scott. I mean, he just has, if you're going to show someone a golf swing and they've never seen golf before, and you'd almost say that is like what you would say would be a, quote, like perfect golf swing. I mean, that is a beautiful golf swing. But there again, that sort of shows perfect golf swing doesn't win every week. So, I still love to watch Tiger hit the ball. I mean, I still love to watch. I mean, even when I was younger and he came through, I tried to copy his swing, even though I didn't have any flexibility like him or anything like that. So still, even though Tiger with all his injuries, he still has a nice swing.
Adam Scott, Uniqlo. They dress him in brown all the time. Adam Scott's a very handsome man. Then you have Jason Day. You see him in the Malbon clothing. Is there a war on Aussie golf fashion?
I don't know, but I think they're not Adam still looks pretty good. I don't know if the colors are great. I don't know what the deal with that is on with him. Maybe they've got something on him. I don't know. And then Jason, I don't know. He sort of looks like he just got out of bed and put his pajamas on. So I don't know what's going on there, but obviously they're paying him a bit of cash to wear their clothes. But for me, I can only speak for me. If I don't look good or feel good, I just don't think I'm going to play good. So I don't think I could wear some of those clothes that Jason's wearing because I just don't think I'd play good if I didn't feel like I'm at least looking half decent. But some of his get up that he's wearing these days is a little bit different. But again, it's getting a lot of attention. They're probably selling a bit more clothes now. I'd never actually heard of the brand before he started wearing it. So it's definitely not a brand that's available here in Indonesia that I've seen. So, but again, it's creating a bit of a buzz. And again, it all goes back to that marketing. So it's definitely getting some people looking at him and maybe they're going to buy it.
And now in terms of Tiger, You know, and I know he's had a lot of injuries,
Yeah.
but somehow he seems more muscular than ever.
He looked huge.
Ginormous.
Yeah,
Sweating the
really
whole
big.
time. His head was
Yeah.
huge. Well, I don't know. It seems like maybe something's going on, but I don't want to say anything, but you know.
I mean, maybe he's eating more carbs or something. I don't know. But he does look, I mean, you go back, even compare him to 2019, and he does look, probably as we get age as well. So, but he does look a little bit full figured.
You, as a Western guy living in Asia, you probably also pick up on this as well. I think that Sunday Red isn't designed for the U.S. market or the non-Asian market. To me, that whole Sunday Red, he's trying to appeal to the China market, just like Hollywood movies are nowadays.
Well, that's probably, yeah, I haven't even thought about that, and I hadn't heard anybody say that, Pants. So, definitely that could be a reason that, I mean, it seems like, with the logo and the Sunday Red, I mean, because he had that iconic, TW logo, and I thought, oh, well, maybe he was just going to use that. So whether Nike owned that, which I'm sure they wouldn't, but yeah, it seems an interesting strategy. But yeah, probably he's geared more maybe the Chinese market, the Asian market. They still have a lot of Nike clothes here, a lot of Nike shoes, people walking around with Nike stuff on. So Tiger Woods branded equipment here. So, I think his brand is still very strong in this part of the world.
Well, here's the key for me in terms of Tiger trying to appeal to the China market. Sunday Red. He takes Sunday and makes it Sunday.
Yeah.
The color red in Chinese, it's supposed to bring up red. So now that sun and red, it's all this whole Chinese imagery, this whole meaning in China. I almost guarantee it flops in the States, but is huge in China, just like, again, the Hollywood movies are not made for the American market anymore.
I think there's probably something in that, Pants. I mean, there's been, obviously quite a lot of controversy with a lot of the movies. They remove different references and things like that for the Chinese market. So that's probably something that's, I mean, in the end, I mean, there was stuff with, wasn't it the NBA and LeBron and things like that as well, what they're allowed to say about China. So in the end, it all comes back to money. So, money talks and, whatever they're geared towards. And you might be right the way that it seems weird that they would do that. I mean, they've got the tiger there, they've got the red. Again, that's probably almost, one of the biggest markets in the world now. And even when I was there, 20 years ago, golf was quite big. So, who knows what it's like now. I haven't been back for a long time, but you only need a fraction of the population there to want to buy your stuff, and it's a huge market.
You've settled into Indonesian life. You've done the good Australian thing. You've married a lovely Indonesian woman.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. So I met her not long after I came here, in probably about 2008, 2009. So she sort of worked overseas at the time. She was a flight attendant for Saudi Arabian Airlines.
God bless you, Adam, for diving on that.
Following Greg Norman, right? Greg Norman, he married his first wife was a flight attendant. So whenever she got the chance, she'd come back and visit me. So I was pretty lucky. And then we were living together when she moved back, and we've been married since May 10, 2017. I better remember that. I hope she doesn't see this one. And so we're coming up on nearly 7 years of marriage. So, happily married. Every guy sort of says that, I guess. So, marriage is okay. So, yeah. But very, very lucky. Very, very lucky man.
And you plan to live from here on out in Indonesia? No plans to move?
Don't know, Pants. So my goal is to eventually, over the next few years, really take more of, or pretty much all of my business online. And one thing, I'd like to, and I've developed an e-course that I really want to sell, which is to help people know how to practice as well. So I'm putting the marketing and the ads together to be able to do that. Because that's one thing I really see, that maybe there's a bit of a gap in the market for so many golfers, is they spend so much of their valuable time. They might only have 30 minutes a week or an hour or something like that, and they're pretty much just wasting it. So my goal is to try and help golfers just be able to, whatever time they have when they go to the range especially, or even, if they're practicing at home, really be able to get the most out of their practice time. So that's where more of my vision is. Even with Laurie, who's sort of my business partner as well, we're looking to really help parents of high school golfers, especially in the States, to start first, to really help them to be able to guide themselves and their kids through sort of high school and then be able to get into college. Because that's one of the biggest things that we see that, and even talking to a friend who lives just out near San Francisco, is there's so many teenage golfers, but not enough coaches to coach them. And their whole goal is to try and get a scholarship to get to college because, college is so expensive. So the goal is to be, earn money while you sleep, and then also you can live anywhere you want. So whether I don't see myself hopefully long-term being in Jakarta, settling down and, maybe here, a bit of time in Australia, maybe Bali as well would be good. But to be able to have the freedom to move around would be sort of my ideal.
I've been to Ubud in Bali.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Amazing little city. Food there is awesome. Was super cheap because the last time I was there was probably like 7-8 years ago.
Yep.
And then you also have to go to the areas where the young Aussies ruin, like Gili Trawangan.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's just young Australians ruining the planet on their holiday leave.
Aussie bogans with your similar haircut there, Pants. So I won't put you in with them, but they've got a lot of the mullets and they've got that there, the Cam Smith type of haircut there. So yeah, whenever I've gone down to Bali, I haven't been there for a little while, but it was always a little bit embarrassing as an Australian living here. Oh my God, But they do have a good time down there. I don't think they cause too much trouble, but they do get a bit out of control. That's for sure.
I think there's one beach there called Seminyak, something like
that.
Oh,
yes.
Where you read about it, and it's pretty much like gives you the warning, like, by the way, lots of young Aussies. And I was like, okay, I didn't go there. I was like, okay, I'll just stay in Ubud.
Yeah, you might not want to go there. Yeah.
But I appreciate you respecting the Cam Smith. That's a powerful.
That is pretty good. I wouldn't have the balls to do that. So, but it looks good on you, Pants. It does look good on you. How long have you had? When did you do that? How long have you been getting on with that haircut for?
About 8 days.
Oh wow! Okay, so you're a newbie. Oh, okay. And how's the feedback been?
In the beginning, the first time I saw it in the mirror, when the next day you shower, you wake up in the morning, I was horrified. I was like, what is it? Now I went into a barber place today and I was like, can you do this next time, like in a month, but make it better than this? And they're like, yeah, we can do that. Yeah. So I'm already planning to keep it. I love it now.
Okay, that's good. I mean, at least you've got your hair, so it will always grow back. So it's not like you're going bald or anything. So, you've always, another 4 weeks, you won't even know. So, but yeah, it looks good.
He's Australian. He lives in Indonesia. You can hit him up on X. There's ways you can reach him on the internet. Adam, thank you so much for being on Big Boy Pants Golf, YouTube's Hottest Golf channel.
Great. Thank you so much, Pants. And it's been a pleasure to be on here and meet you and talk to you all things golf.